Well, good morning to you, my fellow wanna go fishing family and monkey riders around the world. I am sitting today on the 2020 Honda Monkey today, a whipped puppy. Evidently, I pushed it a little too hard. Not the monkey itself, but if you'll notice, there's no rack over here. It's down there. A few days back, maybe a week or so ago, I realized that the rack looked kind of funny. It was leaning backwards more than normal. And what had happened was, I have kind of overwhelmed the little rack that I bought for the back of this. Now, the rack that I bought was more for looks, really, than function. Maybe if I'd have just had a normal basket or a little luggage holder for the helmet or something on the back, it would have been fine. But it was made by H2C, which appears to be a good company, and it's a good looking rack. It's just, it couldn't handle the weight. And it had bent. The two bars that come up, it's just two singles that come up that go into the rack itself. They had bent and pushed the bolts that I used on the bracket that I had made with my buddy Ronnie into the taillight. So I didn't know, I have no idea how long it had been doing that. I just noticed it not too long back. So the bolts had pushed into the taillight, which had hit the housing of the taillight and pushed the taillight almost out of the housing. Well, fortunately it didn't break it, but it popped it open, because that housing for that taillight is kind of like a clamshell. It goes around the light and it clips on both sides. It had kind of popped it open, and evidently had been like that long enough that when I took the rack off and tried to put the light back together, it didn't want to snap back into place. It kept wanting to open up. So I had to duct tape, not my proudest moment with the monkey, the light back together, hoping that eventually what's going to happen is it's going to form back to its original shape and clip back together again. And at this point, what I'm going to have to do is take the basket and the bracket loose from the rack, put the rack back on the bike, and kind of lift up and try to bend it back into a normal position where I can take it to a friend of mine who is a incredible fabricator, welder. He owns his own custom exhaust and muffler shop, and he's going to weld me two braces, probably half-inch, quarter-inch, something, steel bar on the sides of that rack to hold it into place. Now, these racks are just hollow tubing, okay? They're not a bar, a solid bar. They're a hollow tubing, so they can only handle but so much. So I'm hoping that it won't just push through the hollow tubing itself. He says he believes that it will hold up. And really, this is temporary, because honestly, on most occasions, what I would do is just buy another rack that's better formed and suited for the bike, which is what I want to do. The problem is, the one that I want, which is the T-Rex racing rack for a Honda Monkey, is always out of stock. Always. I have my name and email on their list for when one comes available, or some come available. I can purchase one. Now, these things are $200. These are not cheap racks. They're not the, I think I paid $65 or something for this is H2C, which appear to make good stuff, just not strength-wise for what I was trying to accomplish, because let's face it, I love the monkey, I love riding the monkey, I love getting out on this thing, but I fish with this thing, and I do put a tackle bag. I do have the two cases on each side, Pelican cases, and two rods and reels, and occasionally my bike lock. So I'm guessing here that that's probably in the 30, and I'm really stretching it here, maybe 30-pound range. Probably not that much. But the rack, I think, the H2C rack is only, I think it only goes up to about 12 pounds is what it's capable of holding. So yes, I did take it to the extreme. My bad. I shouldn't have done that. The only other thing that kind of disturbs me a little bit is when I look up the T-Rex racing rack, it doesn't really give me a weight distribution of what it can handle. it looks tougher, and I'm going by videos that I've seen on other YouTube videos on the monkey and YouTube, and I've seen some pretty big camping gear bags and things on the back of this thing, so I'm hoping that just my little bit of stuff won't mess that one up. Now, it doesn't, you know, the little chrome rack that I got was basically nostalgic looking for the monkey, and yes, it is cool that the monkey looks the way it does, but again, I use this thing, and I'm going to be using it a lot more now that I've got my Toyota running like it should. This is going to go in the back, and get out and go with this thing and do some touring. Other than that, now we've got to disassemble this H2C rack over here and get my bracket off of it, put it on the monkey, try to lift it up, bend it back into place where it looks like it should be, so I can take it to my buddy and he can weld the two braces in there until we get a T-Rex rack that actually comes in that we can get. There you go. That's what we're doing right now. Sorry about that elongated spiel, but hey, you have to understand. I don't want you to read between the lines. I want you to understand. Are you getting me? Do you understand? I hope this microphone's working too, because I'm trying a new microphone setup and I can see the little green lines jumping side to side, so I'm assuming something's happening. And they only jump when I talk, so I'm guessing it's picking me up. It's just a guess. It's a hypothesis. No, that's not. That's an educated guess, and I'm not very educated. Anyway, let's get this rack taken apart, and maybe tomorrow after work we can take that thing to him and get him to weld on it for me. And I'm not worried about the chrome. Doesn't bother me. I'm going to probably paint the thing anyway. I'll just go ahead and get it powder coated or something like that until we get us a T-Rex. Something I never thought I'd say. It's very very Jurassic Park. Nothing came out of that good at all whatsoever. So sorry about all the noise, but I live on a drag strip. Just how it is. First thing we got to do is get this thing apart. Get this bracket off of here. And then try to put it on the monkey and see if we can straighten it back out. What else can you do? So let's just go ahead. I've already got one of them off here. Got them sized up. Start taking her apart. I don't know if you can see that or not. She's leaning back pretty good, and you can see right here on both sides it's bent. Anyway, that fun part is over. We'll set this over here, and now let's get the seat off the monkey. So at this point, if you own a monkey, we all know that the 12mm is what takes the seat off. So I got to take both these bolts out here, pop the seat off, and then we have to come back here to the shocks and just loosen the bolts enough to get the rack back on here. And I'll probably just leave the seat and everything off until I get the rack back. But let's get this seat off here, get the rack on here, and see just how whacked out of shape it really is. I also purchased this fancy pants little box of Allen wrenches from Harbor Freight because I'm that guy. I constantly lose Allen wrenches. I don't know why, but a lot of those ones that you buy in the little rubber side thing, I am really at an awkward angle right here. Just go with me on this, okay? But I lose the ones that they slide into the little rubber pouchy thing. I just lose them, okay? I got Allen wrenches all over the place. I find them everywhere. But you can't never read the size of an Allen wrench on an Allen wrench. Not with my eyes. So I got this fancy thing here that holds them so I can pop them right back into the same spot. This will be the first time I've even opened them. There ain't no way. It lifts the bike up. Okay, pretty sure I moved it. We're just gonna have to keep trying that, because when I put a wooden handle through here to kind of get some leverage out further, and there were things cracking and popping. Okay, with where the signal light is, something's gonna have to be welded from here to at least right in here, but with the signal light being right there, it's going to be at a pretty sharp angle that I don't even know is going to work. This may be all for naught, but I'm going to keep pulling on this thing until I blow out my L7 or 5, which already hurts. Whew. At least it's extremely humid out here today. Well, it's bending. It's bending. Let's try that wooden handle thing again. I mean, what's it gonna do? Break? Could it be the cracking and popping that I heard was the handle of the rubber mallet? Seriously thought that was stronger than that. Evidently now, I have a very much shorter rubber mallet. Let's go with a fiberglass handle with a rubber end. That's much better. Yeah, that's almost straight. That's almost too much. But that's okay. For right now, that's okay. Alright, I see what we need. I think it'll work. Now we just take it back off and we take it up to my buddies, and hopefully what I'm going to do is take some duct tape, a thin strip, and get my angle that it needs to be at on both sides to keep from hitting the headlight or the tail light, and then we'll take it to him. Of course, today's Sunday, he's not open. So what you'll be seeing is probably a day to 2 days to 5 days to a week to a month later after I get through doing this. Hey, come on, man, stop! Anyway, let me get this back off here, get my angle. It's all about angle. And poof, with the magic of photography and television and special effects and all that stuff, we have a rack. So what I'm going to do now is do my best to try to sand this down, because this is raw steel and it's going to rust. So I'm going to take some steel wool and go over this, and then I'm going to get some alcohol and go over it and get all my handprints and fingerprints and stuff off of it. And I got some paint. It is Rust-Oleum. It is the typical spray, but I'm going to take this thing off a little bit, and we're going to try to paint these pieces here and cross our fingers and hope that it's close. And I'm not really worried too much about it. I just don't want it to rust. That's the big thing. So anyway, let's get that set up, and then we'll get this guy due to time-lapse photography and special effects all over again. We'll get this thing put back on hopefully this evening and see how it looks. Well, it ain't the best in the world. I ended up having to paint the whole thing because trying to paint just these bars right here, it didn't look right. It didn't look right, so I went ahead and just painted the whole thing. Plus it's chrome underneath, so if it scratches, the chrome's just going to show through. This is a fancy chrome paint of some kind made by Rust-Oleum, and it didn't do bad, but I'll clean it up a little bit better than it is and get the overspray. It was almost impossible to keep it smooth. It was like you would spray one part and the overspray would get this part, so you'd spray this part and the overspray would get this part. But you know what? It's a tool. I'm using it as a tool, okay? So I'm not really overly worried about physical characteristics of its beauty to be, you know, aesthetically pleasing. I'm worried more about it doing what it's supposed to do. and not bending and dropping all my stuff off the back of it at 45 miles per hour somewhere. That's the main thing. So what we're going to do now is get this thing put back together and get it back on the monkey. Stay with me. You stay with me too. Don't you fall off. But you guys hang with me too. All right, let's get on to putting this thing back together again. The put it back together part is always fun. So okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up all these tools and get all this stuff out of the way so I can back this thing out of the garage. We can possibly go for a ride, maybe even go fishing if the time calls for it, but you never know. But we'll put all the weight on it anyway, just to put the poles back there and the bag back there, just to make sure nothing breaks and falls off. If it does, I'll be close to home, and that way nothing will go wrong, because I can call somebody to come get me, and then, you know, if I don't want to get far from... Wow, that was fast. I got lightheaded. Whew. What's happening, guys? Rack is back on the monkey. Seems to be pretty sturdy now. Kind of unsure as to why that the H2C people didn't add that little bar in the first place. It looks good. It looks like it's supposed to be there, and it really doesn't take away from the way that it looks. But try to remember, when you buy this stuff, you're buying something that's more aesthetically pleasing than useful, okay? Take a good look, read the descriptions, make sure that these things are strong enough and can hold the weight that you're going to put on it. Now, I know that things change, okay? And when you buy these things, you may decide later on, hey, I want to go camping. Hey, I want to go fishing. Hey, I want to put an anvil on the back of this thing and deliver it to Wile E. Coyote. Okay, well, that's not going to work, okay? Because that's what I'm going through now. I bought something that was really underrated and got overwhelmed by the amount that I was putting on it, even though what I put on it was not very heavy. But oh well, that's live and learn. It's strong now. Seems to be really strong now. So we're going to find out. So the next thing is really taking this thing for a ride. Putting everything in it that I think I'm going to use and go. Upgrades are one of those things you're going to find. There's a lot of them out there, and there's a lot of choices. Next, for example, shocks. I want to put new rear shocks on the back of this thing. But there's a lot of them out there. And some of them are really expensive. So I've got to look at what's going to work for me. I have to look at what I can afford, what's the best for the money to do the job that I want this thing to do. There you go. Bees deals, man in the box, somebody's in a box. I think it's a man. But that's a good place to look up stuff, look for things for the monkey. Just be aware of what you're buying. If you're buying something like what I bought that looks great but can't really handle it, you're going to end up doing what I'm doing now, and you're going to end up fabricating something to make it work. I did paint the entire rack because it just looks silly. It was two different colors, so I figured, you know, what the heck, if it scratches, it's chrome underneath, and that way the chrome will show through. I'll just paint it again. I'll strip it down, paint it again. There you go. Easy enough. Comes off really easy. 2 shock bolts, 2 bolts to the frame, 4 bolts holding the basket on. Boom, I'm painting it again. It's not that big a deal. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Be aware of what you're buying. That's all I'm going to tell you. Be aware of what you're buying. Take a good look at it. Get on YouTube. Take a good look at these things. There's a lot of people out there using different stuff. Some of them are really expensive. Some of them are not so expensive. But you end up having to make it stronger. That's how it goes. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. See you out there on the road somewhere.